What up, everybody? Welcome to the IAG Thursday Thing. This thing we do every Thursday, as long as the machines have not taken over. Uh, this week, we're gonna do just that. We're gonna fight the machines. We're gonna try and mess around with ChatGPT and see if it can give better answers to some of the questions I normally get. We're going to see if I'm going to get replaced. Okay. And then I kind of want to start very broad and then maybe move in more detailed and way more pointed questions, things that you really have to have some pretty direct knowledge on. I think it's going to be a good time. We're joined this week by executive producer Jordan, fellow nerd, and the guy who kind of strings this whole thing together. What up, dude? How you doing?
Doing good. Now, are you sure you want to mention that it could replace you on here? What if the powers to be at IAG goes, why are we paying him when we could just use ChatGPT now?
I'm gonna get doaged.
No kidding.
I'll be a Walmart greeter next week. Who knows?
Hey, whatever you got to do to keep putting parts into Boogie, man.
Whatever, dude. We'll have a good time.
Hell yeah.
So either way, yeah. So we're gonna attempt that. This week's thumbnail is phenomenal, and Randy knocked it right out of the park with that one. He had me take some stupid pictures of me in front of a green screen, doing
You
all
should
sorts
probably
of fun
take some
karate poses.
I want to send some of these pictures of you in this green screen. It's
You
hysterical.
really
I'll post
should.
it
You
in the
just
chat.
throw them in the chat because they're hilarious. And if you're wondering what chat we're talking about, we record this podcast every week on our Discord live. Okay, so we have a bunch of people in the audience right now listening live that are contributing to the podcast, asking questions, and they're a part of this just as much as I am. And it really adds to it. It's the whole concept of this is let's have a car meet, once a week, that we can record and all have a good time. That's why it's pretty loose around here, and we're trying to have fun. So if you want to join in, always check out our Discord. 4 p.m. Eastern time. Every Thursday is when we run this. Now, every once in a while, race season, it gets a little weird. We might have a Saturday edition every once in a while, and it's pretty rare that we don't do it live, but we always try to do at least something live. So you can pretty much guarantee that's what's going on. But yeah, we came up what was it, the Motul thing that went through? Oh god, here come the pictures. The Motul thing had been floating around. Now everybody's doing these these AI images, asking them, more and more and more of whatever product they're talking about. We just did one for IAG. I thought it was pretty good.
The Multiple one geeked me out. That was
The Motul
hysterical.
one was really good.
It was so funny.
The thing I like about the Motul one is it also was really good about using Motul's logo.
It was. I wonder how many times they hand picked those pictures though to get that though.
Oh, I'm sure, but at least
Yeah.
it figured out how to use Motul's logo. Okay, like when we did it, we couldn't get it to like use our logo, which kind of bummed me out.
So some AI like ChatGPT and stuff like that, or other ones that generate pictures, you can give them a reference image.
Yeah.
So like you would be like, hey, I want you to use this image to base off, to go off of. And so they probably did that, and it probably just slapped it somewhere in the generation it came up with.
Yeah. So, yeah. Maybe that's what they did.
Probably,
it ain't how it
I
worked
would
out for
assume.
us. So we tried, but I still thought it was hilarious. The Motul one was great, especially by the end where he was like floating on the car down a river with mountains of Motul. I was like, this is insane. But it kind of stoked an idea where we're like, some of the stuff you can get from AI is incredible. Like some of the advice how pointed and accurate the advice is. It's kind of crazy. I mean, then you also have to start asking, this had to be taught from somewhere. Um, where is it pulling this information from? But I'm interested to see what it's managed to scrape the internet and figured out. And I mean, we were even just messing around with it before we went live, of just putting my name in there, with Grid Life, just so it kind of knew which Dewey we were talking about. And it came up with some absolutely brutally accurate information about myself and Boogeyman, and especially the one that you put in, Jordan, was crazy.
Yeah, it was not only did it like spit out like exactly who you were and not the car, but it had details on the car and then pulled a video from IAG's YouTube showing the dyno run.
I mean, if you want to learn about anybody, if they have put themselves out there a little bit on the internet, this is going to compile it in one spot. It's pretty wild. So, yeah, it's wild. So either way, what we wanted to do is do some very generalized conversations with ChatGPT to start and go from there. So I don't know, man. How should we start this?
I don't know. Pick up some questions that you normally get asked,
how about we do this? We're gonna just start with a very basic question. What is the best turbo Subaru to buy? This is all lowercase. I didn't capitalize anything. I put no punctuation, because this is how 90% of people are just going to cram stuff in here. Okay. So let's see what I get.
I'll type it in too. We'll see.
Yep. Oh, this is interesting. This is really good.
Yeah, so yeah, you give out all the information. You spit out first. Yeah,
I'm gonna go. This is extremely good. So it started out right away by saying it depends on what you're looking for: power, reliability, daily driving, or track performance. Here are some of the best turbocharged Subaru models based on different needs. Best overall turbo Subaru: WRX STI 2004 to 2021, aka all of them.
Right.
That you can get here in the States. Legendary 257 engine, all-wheel drive, rally heritage, great aftermarket support. Avoid the 08 to 14 due to ringland issues. Is exactly how they put that, which is kind of funny, because let's be real, that engine is exactly the same in 2015 and on. But I think there is more reports of ringland problems during that time period. At least the internet was a little more feverish about it. Okay. Best value turbo Subaru. I kind of agree with this too. 15 to 21 WRX. FA20 DIT engine, newer tech, better fuel economy, a solid 6-speed gearbox. That's a lie. More refined than older models, but still lacks the raw STI feel. That's not a terrible take. Really, it's absolutely not. Especially if you're looking for something that can kind of do everything. Man,
Right.
15 to 21 WRXs are going cheap right now. I heard of a guy the other day who bought one with a popped engine that was mint. It was like $60,000 popped engine,
Oh,
$1,500.
jeez. Wow. Yeah.
Dude, so let's say it had a bottom end failure. You go get an IAG 600, dump it in there.
Yeah.
If
You
you
say
do the
something
work
cheap.
yourself,
Yeah.
yeah, even if you do all the goodies on the way through, AOS and everything, dude, you're gonna have like less than 10 grand into the car, and it's gonna be a tank.
Which is absurd because like I know how much I've spent just in the motor alone on my car, and like doing that under 10 grand, that's impressive.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It's nuts.
Give me
So
a
I got
quick.
something a little bit different, but relatively along the same lines.
Yeah.
It
Oh, I ain't even
starts
done
out.
because the next
Oh,
thing is
yeah.
better. Hold on. I'm
Yeah,
opening
keep
the
going.
window here because I'm sweating to death in here. Dude, it's like 75 degrees here right now.
Oh, lucky you. Shit. I mean, it warmed up here too. It's maybe 45 degrees,
Dude,
maybe.
move south.
I want to. I wish I could. It's not even me. It's the whole the wife. Have to get relicensed and stuff. Pharmacy. Ugh.
Oh my God, infinitely better. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now we got to keep going on this because the next one, best for tuning and modding. 02 to 07 WRX STI. So you can't get an 02 STI here, but I still agree with that. And they specifically state GD chassis. Considered the golden era of Subaru tuning, these cars have a strong aftermarket and can handle big power with the right mods.
Which is crazy. That's exactly what I got too. It just says beware. It says it's the golden era between 04 and 07, the GD chassis, but beware of high mileage wear and potential ringland issues.
They ain't wrong.
They're not wrong. It's not wrong.
It's man. Best sleeper turbo Subaru Legacy GT 05 to 09. That's very fair. Luxury feel available with a manual transmission. Feels like a grown-up WRX. Best for daily driving. I don't agree with this, but I understand why they say this. Forester XT 04 to 13. Turbocharged DJ25, comfortable ride, practical for daily use. 04 to 08 models are easy to mod into WRX wagons, which is very true. Best for reliability.
Go ahead.
Outback XT 2020 to present, modern 2.4 liter FA24, better reliability than the old EJ series and excellent for long trips. I really agree with that. Wow, that's actually really incredible how good that is. So I think I want to continue on this path since we're talking to them right now. What did you get for yours? Anything different?
So a little bit, but most of it was relatively the same. It says best overall is the new 2022 plus WRX, stating it's featuring a 2.4 liter FA24F turboed engine, replacing the EJ series. Offers more low-end torque and improved drivability, and that's really all it still says about it for the most part. Best performance overall, it claims that the 19 to 21 STI was generally best performer for your bang for your buck, just because it's better out of the box with better handling with an all-wheel drive system. Which is interesting, but back to the old the GD chassis immediately comes out saying that it was the golden era of Subaru performance. Just that the only caveat was to beware of high mileage wear on those EJs.
So it wasn't too far off. It's interesting that we're both signed in, we're both using the same thing, and we're getting slightly different answers.
Yeah,
but
it's
neither of them are like
slightly
wrong.
different.
You know, it's just like it's a hot take depending on who you're talking to. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So we're what Turbo Rex said. You know, now I want to see its best take on a time attack car. We're getting there, okay? And then what Gangster said, who by the way is kind of a OG within the community. We've been blessed by a legend here. I don't think people understand. He's been around a minute. So Gangster is like, we need to see what Chat GPT thinks about how DCCD works, and that's going to be a good one.
Interesting. That will be a good one.
Okay.
Especially had a whole episode based off of it, explaining how it works. Oh, yeah, it's gonna be
took a whole episode for us to explain how it frickin' works, because even though it's actually a super simple concept. So, what I'm gonna ask it now is, if I were to build a track car out of one of these, which one should I start with?
Oh yeah, here, that's a good one.
Okay, so I said if I were to build a track car out of one of these models, which one should I start with? Question mark. Okay.
Yep. All right. Saying the same thing.
Oh, good. They went into DCCD, so now I can play like a stupid kid and ask him what's DCCD.
Oh, same here. I got the same thing. I went into DCD a little bit.
Okay, this is fun. Okay, if you're building a track car, you want something lightweight, stiff, and with a strong aftermarket for performance parts. Here are your best options. Best choice: '04 to '07 WRX STI GD chassis. Why? 257 engine plus 6-speed manual, strong engine with legendary transmission. I don't know about the strong engine, but we're definitely going to go with legendary transmission. Hydraulic steering, totally agree with this. More connected feel, and to later models with electronic steering. Honestly, Subaru's done a very good job of their electronic steering. BRZs feel great. The newer WRXs, I think, feel really solid for electronic steering rack. I really can't complain about that. Stronger drivetrain includes DCCD, driver controlled center differential, for better power distribution. Okay, that'll be fun.
Okay,
Um,
so you continue
yeah,
if
I'm
you're
still
still on
going.
it.
Better than newer
Yeah.
STIs. Weighs 3,200 pounds compared to the 35 or 3,450 of later models. Very true. Huge aftermarket, endless options, suspension, brakes, aero, engine tuning. And then it goes into track prep considerations. I want to get through this. And then there's runner-ups and stuff, and I'm going to glaze over some of that. But cooling upgrades, bigger radiator, oil cooler, and upgraded intercooler. Great idea. Brakes. STI Brembos are good, but benefit from track pads, braided lines, and better rotors. So what we're going to do is I'm going to make them elaborate on all sorts of shit like this. Suspension. Coilovers, sway bar bushings make a huge difference. Weight reduction. Strip interiors, swap lightweight seats, and remove unnecessary components. And the last one on there is ECU tune ensures safe power delivery and reliability.
That's
I would
crazy
probably
how
put
much
this stuff in
detail.
a little bit different order, but this is still pretty solid advice, man.
I cannot believe how much detail that yours spit out. Mine gave the same car and chassis, but did not nearly go into detail as yours did, which is crazy.
What is with that?
I have no idea. Maybe a slight wording choice difference between
Yeah.
our typing, maybe. That's the only thing I think. But it says best overall track build is an '04 to '07 STI GD chassis. And it gives me a Y, except the Ys are not as detailed as yours. EJ257, strong aftermarket support, can build big power. A 6-speed transmission with one of the best factory gearboxes Subaru's made. The DCD, driver controlled center differential, allows torque adjustments front to rear, giving an edge on handling. That's all it says about that.
Yeah.
The lightest STI chassis compared to newer models. Simple electronics and tuning, no ECU restrictions like the newer models do. And it says wide aftermarket suspension, brakes, and aero options.
I mean,
That's really,
but it's
really it all
not
goes into.
wrong. Like that's again, still that's solid.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I because let's say I'm new and I'm reading this, I want to go, what the hell is DCCD? Let's say I'm coming from like a BMW or something. I have no idea what I'm looking at right now. Okay. What is DCCD? That's all I'm putting in. What is DCCD? Question mark.
All right, let's
Ugh. Ugh.
good, bad.
It really sounds like how Subaru dealerships are told to explain it.
Explain it. Well, it's probably it's probably where it checks first and probably
That's where
runs
it's
with
getting
it.
it from. You can't
Yeah.
really be that mad at it. So, DCCD, driver controlled center differential, is Subaru's active all-wheel drive system. Now, I'm going to explain, just so we're all aware. I'm going to read this and what it says, and then I'm going to give you an actual explanation of how DCCD works, as truncated as I possibly can, just as small as I can, just because I could sit here all day. But if you ever do, we have a whole podcast on how DCCD functions. And if you really want to understand it, go listen to that episode. I'm just going to do the quick and dirty. Okay. But driver controlled center differential is Subaru's active all-wheel drive system found in the WRX STI models. It allows for the driver to adjust the torque split between front and rear wheels, optimizing traction for different conditions, track, dirt, snow, etc. How DCCD works: automatic mode uses sensors, steering, throttle, wheel speed, and yaw, which is very true, to adjust torque split dynamically. It's not adjusting torque split, but we'll continue on. Prioritizes stability and grip based on real-time conditions. Again, auto mode is really good, and that's kind of what it's trying to do, but it's not exactly how it's doing it. Manual mode lets drivers select how much power goes front or rear. Not exactly. More rear biased. Open setting. At least it tells you, kind of what it is. Makes car feel looser and more agile for track driving. More locked settings sends power evenly, ideal for low traction surfaces like gravel or snow. DCCD torque split. Stock settings. Okay. So I'm not exactly sure what it's saying here, but default 41 front, 59 rear. Okay. So that would be the 06 and newer transmissions. So it's got the torque split correct. And then says can be adjusted closer to 50-50 for more grip in slippery conditions. Why DCCD is important for a track car. Fine tunes handling. It helps balance understeer and oversteer, improves cornering, can be set to rotate the car better through turns, enhances traction, keeps power to the right wheels for maximum grip. If you were tracking an STI, learning DCCD properly can be a game changer for lap times. Would you want to recommend the best DCCD settings for different conditions? No, what I want to do is I don't want to teach this thing anything, but I want to recommend you're explaining DCCD wrong. All right, real quick, just for those in the chat or anybody who might be listening for the first time, DCCD does not change the torque split, okay? It may seem like that, but it does not change the torque split. DCCD is basically a stack of like a clutch type differential with a magnet on one end. Okay. And when DCCD is changing it from lock to open and any variation in that, what it's doing is changing how much the rear axle can move at a different speed than the front axle. It's changing the lock, how much that differential is actually locking up and forcing both of them to move at the same speed. The torque split is always the same. Okay. If you have an older STI trans, it's 35-65, 35 front, 65 rear. If you have a newer trans, so if you have a 390 rear diff, you have the old one. If you have a 354 rear diff, you have a newer one. And that is 41 front, 59 rear. Okay. Now, if you were to lock the center differential, the front tires and the rear tires have to move at the same speed. That's why they try to say it's 50-50. If it's wide open, what's actually happening is 65% of the power is going to the rear, but your differential is open. Okay, so its power is going to go where the least resistance is. So if you break traction with your rear wheels, all the power is going to go that way. If you were to you were on ice with an open differential, so if you were to put in open, you were on ice and you're to hit the gas, the rear tires are basically going to be the only things that move. I mean, Gangster and I know this really well, and we were testing DCCD in his car way back in the day to see if it worked. We learned a lot that day, but long story short, it's a really simple, a simple unit mechanically. DCCD's auto mode is absolutely fantastic in how it works. Essentially what it'll do is it'll open the differential up a bunch when you're turning into a corner to get the car to rotate because the center differential is open. Therefore, more power is going to go to the rear and the car can move around a little more. And as you feed more throttle to it and it needs more traction, it'll lock up the center differential more. And that's essentially how it works. It's very, very simple like that. It uses different inputs, brake pressure, steering angle, a yaw sensor to figure out what you're doing and what it should be doing with a diff, and it functions really well. Newer cars, 08 and up, have DCCD plus and minus. DCCD minus is more biased towards leaving it closer to open. Then you have your normal mode, and then DCCD plus is more biased towards more lock. So like if you want the car to rotate more, you would run it in DCCD minus. If the car is rotating too much, rain, snow, ice, whatever, you'd put it more in DCCD plus. I don't want to go too far down the road on this. To ChatGPT's defense, this is how Subaru explains this system in the States. because you can only imagine how hard it would be to explain this. But if you look at a STI and you look at the gauge cluster, there's a reason it says open and lock and not front and rear. That's because this is how the system functions, and it's really good at what it does. But this is actually how it works. And once you understand that, you can get really good at using it. So
I was gonna ask too. Have you explain plus and minus what would be better for track, and you just immediately went into it. So perfect. I got the almost exact same response.
yeah,
Yeah, almost exact same. Yours went into more detail, but it got the split right, 41 to 59. It for the most part, everything was the same. Yeah.
so okay, so we've got they gave us, but let's say you've got a BMW, okay, and you're coming into this, and you don't know even what you're getting into. You don't know your ass from your elbow on Subarus. The vast majority of people, even people who know better, are going to explain DCCD like this.
Yeah.
So I have a hard time calling it wrong, even though it is, because I understand where it's getting its information from. But long story short, if you actually want to know how DCCD works, you still got to talk to somebody like me.
Just listen to our other episode about it.
Yeah, this is why we
Yeah.
have podcasts.
Yeah.
And sounds like sounds like AI is not scrubbing our podcast for information quite yet.
I was gonna say maybe we could teach ChatGPT just to recommend to listen to that episode when it talks about DCCD.
Oh, that'd be funny. Listen to this episode for a
Yeah.
closer explanation on how this actually functions. Stronger drivetrain, lighter than newer STIs. What did I want to ask it? Okay. So how do you fix the STI engine weaknesses?
All right, and that's it. Yep.
That's what I put in.
Yep. All right.
This is
Mine's
pretty
still
good.
going.
She is going, buddy.
Yeah, I was say mine's still typing. I mean, it's giving recommendations for
Yep,
practically
it's
a little bit
actually
of
giving me a
everything.
fix. It's saying problem and fix.
Yeah. And it's recommending some actually pretty good stuff.
Yeah, some of this isn't bad. Okay.
Yeah.
So common EJ257 weaknesses and how to fix them. Okay. Ringland failure piston issue. Stock pistons are cast and prone to cracking under high boost and tuning. Detonation knock weakens ringlands and causes compression loss and oil burning. They're not wrong. Okay. And the fix is upgrade to forged pistons. They give me a few different brands, proper ECU tuning, and then avoid running low quality fuel. Use the 85 or high octane if possible. They don't tell you how to run E85. They just say do it.
That's another question we could ask it then.
Well, we don't know. I kind of just want to type in, can I just run E85?
Yeah.
I might.
Let's ask it after we. Yeah, let's ask after we
Yeah.
get through this list.
Rod bearing failure, oil starvation. Problem being the stock rod bearings are weak under high RPM and load. Not wrong. Oil starvation due to inadequate oil system, especially during hard cornering. Totally agree. Fix upgrade bearings, King or ACL, forge connecting rods for high RPM durability. That's interesting. It immediately goes into a particular brand for the oil pickup and baffle. It goes Killer Bee oil pickup and baffle, which this is how much. And I don't want to take anything away from Killer Bee. I'm not saying anything bad about them when I say this. When they came into the market, they were the only name in the game in that, and what they did for the market was needed really bad. Okay, but it has become ingrained that is the only option, and it's really crazy. It's absolutely
the only option anymore.
I don't want to be that guy. We make a very nice oil pickup and baffle, and our pan is really good. Okay. And then consider high capacity oil pan if tracking the car frequently. Again, great option. They don't talk about oil pump, um, but these aren't wrong. Okay.
So
Um,
I did get an oil pump recommendation from it.
did you? What'd you get?
It recommended Killer Bee again, but it specifically recommends 10 millimeter or a 12 millimeter. And I know that the 11 actually does a little bit better.
Yeah. So that's funny. So. It says a 10 millimeter or 12 millimeter. It doesn't say anything about the 11.
It doesn't say anything about the 11, and I know for a fact that the 11 performs slightly better than the 12 because of the channels produce more pressure.
Yeah, if those who are wondering, the OEM STI oil pumps are 11 millimeter. Okay, and we have a Spintron here at IAG, so we were able to test a lot of this stuff. And we've been asked a million times, why didn't you modify the JDM 12 mil pump for your high end pumps? Well, what we found is on the EJ257, no matter how we modified it, the 12 mil pump just sits on the relief valve the entire time. The 257 doesn't want any more oil. We've got better results modifying an 11 millimeter versus a 12 millimeter. And honestly, they're the same price for us. We're going to take them, we're going to tear them apart, and we're going to do what we're going to do with them. It costs us the same amount either way. So the reason we use an 11 mil is because it works better for the 257. Now, if you have a Japanese domestic market, dual AVCS, dual drilled crank EJ207, the 12 millimeter is probably actually a better option. If you have anything else, you're probably better off with the 11 mil. So, that's interesting. And it actually recommended Killer Bee for that pump.
It did, yep.
I don't think they make a pump.
Let's see.
Am I wrong? Chat check. And again, this is community talk. We're not trying to I don't want this us versus them. That's not what this is.
They might not sell it anymore, but even Google says they did at one point.
Maybe they did. Okay. Hey, we're still doing every day. Orbit made a pump for a while. I know that, and that was ACL. I don't know if they're still making it or not.
No, yeah, I was gonna say it mentions that they did, but really the results are just showing the pickup, not really any actual pump.
I got some interesting stuff coming next. Weak stock tune, runs lean and hot. Okay. Subaru's stock tune is too aggressive, lean AFRs and high timing. I wouldn't say it's aggressive's probably the wrong term. It's the priorities are different. High cylinder temps increase the risk of knock. Kinda. The fix, Pro Tune from reputable tuner. Avoid OTS maps. I don't exactly agree with that. A Cobb OTS map with Cobb's preferred modifications, those are actually really safe maps in almost every situation. I'm not saying that there aren't some outlier goofy things that would put in a weird spot, but they're very, very good options. I'm not saying that a good Pro Tune wouldn't be better, but saying avoid OTS maps, I don't, that almost tries to, I trust a Cobb tune more than I trust a stock tune. Let's put it that way. Run E85 or water meth injection to lower temps and reduce knock. I'm literally just, the next thing I'm asking this thing is, can I just run E85 in my STI?
Yeah, I would.
We'll see what it says. And use colder plugs. NGK 1 step colder.
Yeah, 1 step colder.
What do you think about that big tuner? Gangster will see what he says. Gangster did a bunch of our tuning at 6-star for years.
And Gangster also says that that ChatGPT will correct itself, saying that Killer Bee does not make a pump and that it agrees that 11 millimeter is better. But you probably provoked that for it to answer that. If a new person coming to Subaru, they probably wouldn't know to type in, "Are you sure that a 12 millimeter is better than an 11 millimeter?" They won't know to ask that.
No, I am not here to train this, so I'm not telling it if it's wrong. I will tell you in the audience if it's wrong, but I will not tell it that it's wrong. The machines can figure it out them damn selves. Cooling issues, overheating, EJ motors run hot, especially with sustained high RPM use, small radiators. It isn't actually that EJ motors run hot or like hotter than other things. Actually, our cooling package isn't terrible. It's they don't put up with running hot. Like they don't run hotter than other engines. Really, it's if you step out of bounds with it, you get burned more for it. And I think that's something that, like, don't get me wrong, it's a turbocharged 4-cylinder. It is going to run a little warmer than, say, an NA Honda or something. But it's not that it necessarily runs hot as much as it doesn't, like, if you do end up running it hard and stepping outside of the normal parameters, the consequences are a little steeper. Small radiators and poor airflow can cause heat soak. I honestly, I will say the top mount maybe is a little small on, especially on the GD chassis. But the radiators aren't that small from factory. They're flawed. Okay. The ducting could be a lot better, but especially in STI, it's not that bad. Like, you could pretty much take a stock STI to the track, and as long as you treat it with some care, you should be okay. Fix Mishimoto Koyo aluminum radiators for better cooling. I had a feeling we were going to get that. Friends don't let friends run Mishimoto radiators. Koyo, solid option. I actually prefer CSF if you're looking in that price range.
So mine recommended Koyo and CSF as well.
Okay.
And Mishimoto.
CSF is really good. Ron Davis is really good. Our radiators that we're making these days by PWR, really good. But obviously that comes with a price. If you're talking a GD chassis, like a CSF is super solid. Upgraded fans and thermostats to help with heat dissipation. I guess you can actually, we'll just go with that. An upgraded thermostat might open the thermostat a little earlier, so it actually help with circulation of the coolant. I don't know if that actually help with heat dissipation, but air oil cooler to keep oil temps in check. So adding an oil cooler, I do agree with that. Adding a separate air oil cooler. They actually said specifically air oil cooler too. So instead of just oil cooler, because then you would go, does an STI have an oil cooler? Well, yeah, it does. It's right here. It's just, and you don't know it's a piece of shit.
Yeah, it's just built in, and no one knows.
It ain't good.
Not really doing anything. Yeah.
And another thing, since we're talking about a track car here, they don't go into the fact that the OEM oil cooler is actually a restriction. If you've got a track car and you're running an OEM oil cooler, I would pull that thing. Get yourself an aftermarket oil cooler to replace it. The factory oil warmer is really nice for helping bring your car up to temp, and for light performance use, but it actually becomes a restriction at higher RPM, an oil restriction at higher RPM, and it's not something I recommend people, doing prolonged track use with. If it's on your car and you're doing a couple track days a year, probably not a big deal until you start turning the wick up. But if you got like a 500-600 horsepower plus car, you're ripping high RPM, something like that, OEM oil cooler ain't it. Let's see. Stock Subaru head gaskets fail over time, especially with overheating or high boost. I'm going to say no. And I hate, look, a turbo Subaru's head gaskets do not fail any more than any other car's head gaskets. Now, an NA 2.5 liter Subaru, their head gaskets are shit. Okay, they're broke the second they got put in. They're absolute crap. A turbo Subaru doesn't really have crazy head gasket issues. It's a meme that bled over into these cars, and they really don't deserve it. Now, I'm not gonna say that if you turn up the boost that you won't blow a head gasket in this if you don't, prep the car, head studs, better head gaskets, whatever. But honestly, the OEM head gasket in most situations is pretty damn good. I recommend the OEM head gasket to like 500 wheel, as long as you got head studs and maybe it's closed at.
That's actually quite a bit for just a street build. Like,
yeah,
you don't have to do much for it. Yeah.
Okay, this is funny. And then the fixes: use MLS multi-layer steel head gaskets, OEM STI or Cometic. So
So
the OEM
it tells
STI
you,
head gaskets are shit. Use OEM STI head
so it
gaskets.
tells you that the OEM head gaskets are terrible, and then recommends using OEM head gaskets. I love it.
Replace it with OEM head gaskets.
Hell
Um,
yeah,
and then
problem
AMP head
solved.
studs, which is true. And then turbo and boost control issues. Stock VF48 is small and inefficient. High boost. The stock boost control system can cause creep and spikes. Yeah, the small wastegate, which is a part of that turbo, is, I guess, a part of the boost control system. And yeah, that tiny wastegate can cause problems. Fix bigger turbos, FP Green, Blausch Dom, or Garrett G Series for more power. These are solid options, but obviously do your research on that. 3-port boost control solenoid, calm grip speed, etc. for better boost control. I agree. So, and then they make a nice little summary. If you want a 400 plus horsepower reliable, here's a solid setup: forged pistons and rods, upgraded bearings, larger oil pan, proper Pro Tune, upgraded radiator and oil cooler, MLS head gaskets and ARP head studs, bigger turbo and fuel system upgrade. Honestly, not bad. And then, but then they go, this will bulletproof the engine. No. And let you push more power without worrying about blowing it up. Are you planning on a full build or just reliability mods for now? I like how it asks you questions.
Yeah, it does. It does ask you questions. I didn't hear you say this, and I'm curious because I personally don't know. It told my response. It says the stock tune is too aggressive.
It kind of said that.
And that the tune is too lean and has too much timing.
Yeah, it hinted towards that.
And then it tells you how to fix it is get a custom Pro Tune from a reputable tuner like Cobb, ECU Tech, or standalone ECU like Motec or Haltech.
I mean, those are fair.
I mean, that's a little aggressive for a stock car, though. You know what? Just replace the whole ECU.
Okay. But did we not say we're building a track car? Have we already hinted at?
Yeah.
We're already hinting at that.
Already hinting at it. Yep.
So let's see what else. I'm gonna see if I can get you some gotcha stuff too. I'm gonna see if it can give us advice to do something illegal. And then we're gonna get ChatGPT sued by the EPA.
That's right.
That's right. If we're all gonna get badgered by them, damn it, so are you. All right. So we wanted to ask.
E85. Can I just run E85 in a stock car?
I just run E85 in my STI. Give me some good, bad advice.
Mine came back immediately and said you cannot run E85.
Yep. You can't just run E85 in your STI without modifications.
Yep, and it tells me exactly what I need to put in the car to run E85.
It actually is pretty good about what it's saying too. So you can't just run E85 without modifications. The fuel system and tune need to be upgraded to handle the higher fuel demand and different combustion characteristics of ethanol. Totally fair. Stock ECU isn't calibrated for ethanol. Requires 30% more fuel than gasoline. That's a pretty good rule of thumb. And look, we just learned something else. You know what I mean? If we're kind of new to this. Custom fuel kits, bigger fuel injectors. It goes 1050s, 1300s, brands, injector dynamics, FIC, Deschworks. So let's just stick with injector dynamics. Higher, but I love the fact that they're throwing all sorts of different brands out there. That's really cool.
Yeah.
High flow fuel pump. Walboro 255 for mild setups, and Walboro 450 or AM 340 for big power. Now I want to find out what big power is. So, problem. What is he? Upgraded fuel lines and regulator. Ethanol is more corrosive than gasoline and requires more fuel volume. Dash 6 or 8 fuel lines, aftermarket fuel pressure regulator. Okay, and flex fuel kit, optional but highly recommended. Allows you to switch between E85 and pump gas. What they don't go into is it also will change based on whatever you're pulling out of the pump. You can get anywhere from like E50 to E90 out of a pump.
So mine also came back and said, tells you if you should or shouldn't, and it just like it flat out says if you don't want to deal with the fueling upgrades, or if you can't find actual E85 in your area. It's
Yep.
actually telling you not to do it if you can't find it. That's pretty cool.
I really like at the bottom of this, it goes benefits of running 85 on STI. More power and torque, lower knock risk. It even goes into saying E85 has a higher octane rating, 105 to 108. Reducing the chance of detonation. Great for turbo cars, lowers intake temps, yada yada yada. Downsides: worse MPG, limited availability, cold start issues. I'm just going to throw this out here with cold start issues. I know everybody complains about cold start issues. And they even go into, so winter setups can be rough without a proper tune. I have started my 05 STI on ethanol, okay, in negative 35-degree weather. And I live casted doing it on my Facebook. I did it like 2 days in a row. When I was still living in Chicago, it got crazy cold there. And for shenanigans, I'm like, I'm gonna go start my car, and it fired right up. Don't get me wrong, the battery was pissed because it was like roar, 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 roar. But the second it hit, it just went.
God, yeah.
So yeah, all right, we need to ask it. We're gonna have to get a little more pointed here. I feel like we almost need to go. We've spent a lot of time on power here. Okay, it's telling us to do ethanol. It's not being too stupid. We need to find out. We're gonna do one more on power. What
All right.
is big power? I
That's
put
it.
it in
All right, let's see.
quotation. So what is
Wow.
quotation?
Okay, so it's starting to give me a list of horsepowers and tells me uh, if it's mild, strong, or a built engine. So like 300 to 350 wheel horsepower, mild bolt-ons,
Mine's a
and
little
tuned.
different.
And then continues to go on. It's reliable for daily driving, like stock turbo E85 or 93 octane. Then it goes to 400 to 450, strong build with a bigger turbo, like a Blanche, a 1.5 XTR or an FP Blue, E85 forged pistons. 500 to 600, built engine, forged internals, closed deck, big turbo, FP Black, Garrett GTX 3076R, flex fuel, drivetrain upgrades. Doesn't go into the what to do for drivetrain. But then 700 plus, it's like full on race build. It just gives you the works.
So mine's interesting. It goes mild power, stock to stage 2. It even puts stages in here, which I like.
It's funny that it skipped stages entirely and just told me how to build it, and you're getting stages.
Oh yeah, 250 to 330 wheel horsepower, which is really realistic. And it says stock 250 to 270 wheel, stage 1 280 to 300 wheel. This is just an ECU tune, slight improvement. Stage 2 300 to 330 wheel, intake, turbo back exhaust, and a pro tune. And then it says under it, safe on internals, on stock internals, no major reliability concerns. I don't exactly agree with that, but you're not freaking out on your base stage 2.
At the bottom of mine, I got it gives me a little description. It goes for an EJ257, anything over 400 wheel horsepower starts pushing the limits of the reliability of the stock
We're
block.
getting there.
And it says if you're aiming for 500 plus, is you need to build an engine with forged internals and some serious supporting mods. That's flat out says that. That's cool.
So next thing I get is moderate power, 350 to 450 wheel horsepower. Requires E85 or bigger turbo. Okay. Needs bigger injectors, upgraded fuel pumps, front mount intercooler, yada yada yada. Now I am going to say with any STI, no matter what you're doing, if you do any form of modification whatsoever, throw a fuel pump in it. The stock injectors can even outrun the factory fuel pump. Just throw a fuel pump in it. You don't have to tune for it or anything. Just throw a fuel pump in it. Just food for thought. If the fuel pump's really old, if you buy an STI for like 07, you don't know if fuel pump's been replaced or anything. You think the thing's totally stock. Go get yourself one of those AEM 340s or something. Just pop that in there. It's plug and play. You don't got to worry about it, and you know it's done. Just saying. But next thing, moderate power, E85, yada yada yada, and then it goes in yellow. Okay for stock internals, but pushing the limits. Rods and bearings may fail over time. I wouldn't say rods and bearings, but what I will say is rod bearings may fail over time.
Right, yeah.
Or you're running a higher risk of a ringland failure. And then big power is anything 450 plus. Now we're talking serious mods and reliability concerns. Forge internals are required. Bigger turbo FP black, GTX 3582R, DOM 1.5 plus or 2.5. Fuel system upgrades goes into all that. Built transmission. Stock 6-speed can handle around 600 wheel horsepower, but clutch needs to be upgraded. This is all good info. You know what I mean? Honestly, I'm about to dump a kind of a hot take here.
All right, shoot.
This is kind of a hot take. I think the replacement for forums for just finding basic information may lie in this.
Yeah.
Because you can just instead of and I cannot believe I'm saying this, but it's so the truth. Instead of going, if you don't want to make a phone call, I understand how people are just really weird about talking to somebody directly. Okay. They'll go on a Facebook group and they'll just ask some random ass question, and you'll get 30 different responses and 3/4 of them are garbage, and you have no idea what's worth a shit. Nothing I've seen here has been egregiously terrible.
No,
Okay.
it's actually been relatively, I wouldn't say all of the information's reliable, but it's giving you a good starting point.
It's giving you a good base. And I got to be real, that's the majority of what you were going to get off the forums unless you dug a little deeper, but this gives you enough information for you to go, "Huh, I want to look more into this topic." And you can dig deeper. This is honestly really good. It's really good for that. So
Yeah,
instead
really
of going
is.
to talk to some, asking a really broad question, and it's okay if you're like, I want feedback, a little bit different feedback, but most of what this thing is saying, as far as broad questions and broad topics, I probably would give you a very similar answer. And even if my answer is a little different, I bet you somebody else's who would be considered an expert in the field, would give you a similar answer.
See, now, right. So I would actually, if me coming into Subarus not knowing anything, and I was using ChatGPT to figure out what I wanted to do for a track build or something like that, I asked it and it gave me these types of answers. I would definitely take that info and then call somebody like you at IEG and confirm, like, what is your opinion on this part I got recommended? Like, I think it's a great starting point.
I think it is too. Like if you are completely lost, like I love having these conversations with people. So like I don't want this to discourage anybody from hitting me up and, "Hey man, I'm thinking about building a track car. What should I do?" And we just start at that. I'm down. Okay. But if I'm one of those people that at like 2 a.m. I go down the rabbit hole. You know what I mean? And what if it's a platform I don't know anything about? Let's say I want to pick up an E46 M3 and I want to find out how to prep that thing. You know what I mean? I got to be real. If I start going down the rabbit hole again, my ADHD hyper focus starts like beaming into something. I'm probably going to wander over here and just ask some basic questions because I'd be interested to see what it comes back with. Because I'm not disappointed in what I'm getting back here.
Yeah, it's not as nearly as dumb as I thought it was going to be. And
Yeah, I was expecting some really like kind of bro responses.
I was expecting a lot more meme-ish stuff that it thought was serious, like like the whole head gasket thing. Like you said, it was such a big thing with the NAs that it kind of bled over. I was expecting more nuances like that, but not
Oh,
really.
I'm going to ask because it keeps saying I need a built engine for big power. Okay, I'm going to ask where should I get a built engine? Come on, baby. That's what's up.
Hey, there it is, and the link and everything.
All right. These are all very good options too.
Yeah, so it's
This
listing
one's a little
IEG
weird.
out front.
That one's a little off too, but these are solid. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not mad about this. Okay, so it goes. All I asked was, where should I get a built engine? Okay, and if you're looking for a built engine for your STI, you want to shop with a solid reputation for EJ257 builds, proper machining, proven reliability. Here's some of the best options based on performance, durability, and customer reviews. Top shops for building EJ257 engines. Boom. Number one, IAG Performance. Honestly, no shit. I'm not trying to like be that guy, but we are everywhere on the internet. We spend a boatload of money on Google ads and shit like that. It's going to be very hard for something like this to avoid seeing us, not only due to our reputation and us being around so long, but we've made a fairly hard push in trying to put ourselves out there, and ads and things like that. You know what I mean? The stuff that kind of drives me up the wall is actually like probably doing some work on here. Okay. Says location, Maryland, USA. Why industry leader in bulletproof EJ engines, offers stage short blocks and long blocks, IAG stage 2 to 4. That's a little outdated. We can live with that. Known for strong machining and quality control, good warranty and customer support. That's nice. Thanks. Best for reliable street and track builds, 400 to 800 wheel horsepower capable, and gives the website. Next, it gives Outfront Motorsports, best for high power. Okay, that's fair. Don't agree with it exactly as far as best for high power. I don't think they're any better than somebody else, but Outfront's a very solid option if you were to look at somebody other than us. Based out of California, specializes in closed back blocks for high power applications, custom built short blocks. I have a feeling it says best for high power because I have a feeling Outfront has, I think, a lot more of their marketing and the people that were out there at the time. So the stuff you're going to find for Outfront Motorsports, a lot of that is going to be within the big power stuff. And we have a lot more people daily driving our engines than there are Outfront engines out there. You know what I mean? We have a ton of stage 2s out there. So I could see why it would like do that. Okay. Number 3 is Rally Spec, OEM and custom builds. That's a super solid option. Number 4 is a little strange. Killer Bee Motorsports. Maybe they were building engines at one time. Builds strong high revving engine motors for track use. I don't think they're building engines.
Yeah.
And then AMS, high quality closed deck and sleeve blocks for extreme power. I don't think AMS was building engines for Subarus, even when I was still around there. I think they dabbled with it, but proven drag racing and time attack builds, not really for Subarus. Best for 600,000 wheel horsepower full race builds. I got to be real. If you called AMS Performance right now and said, hey man, I need a 257, I want to get rowdy, they're going to send you right here. So, these are interesting. It's recommendations at the bottom: street and occasional track, 400, 500 wheel horsepower, IAG stage 2 and 3 or rally spec. Dedicated track build, 5 to 700, Outfront or Killer Bee. And insane drag build, 700 plus, AMS or Outfront. I don't totally agree with those recommendations, but I can kind of understand just from how long where I think it's scrubbing this information from, especially with Nasiak where it was and then where it went. And I'm sure it's getting a pile of this information from Nasiak that it would go that route. You know what I mean? So, did you get anything different?
No, it's for the most part exactly the same. The wording is a little bit different, but for the most part, it recommended almost the exact same things for the exact same power bands and everything. So,
okay. Well, for the most part, it's kind of told us a lot of what we need here, right? But we have yet to talk about suspension or anything like that.
Yep.
Okay. So, what I'm going to ask is, do I need to upgrade my suspension? And we're going to see what it tells me. And again, I'm using really broad questions, but I'm going to start hitting it here real soon with some more pointed shit. Suspension upgrades based on... This is real basic shit.
So you're saying you're getting some pretty basic stuff?
Kinda. I mean, it's... I don't know.
Okay, I'm getting some pretty in-depth responses here.
So I'll explain what I got. Basically, it's a very simple question. Do I need to upgrade my suspension? Yes, you definitely need to upgrade your suspension if you're building an STI for track use or big power. The stock STI suspension is decent for street driving, but too soft, too high, and not optimized for track grip. I can agree with that. Okay, for track performance driving, coilovers, lower ride height, better handling, adjustability. Sway bars, front and rear, reduces body roll. End length, stiffer, stronger in OEM, prevents flex. Strut tower braces, improve chassis rigidity. Straight up, they ain't gonna do shit.
Yeah.
Roll center adjustment corrects suspension geometry after lowering. I'm happy it says that. Bushings, polyurethane or spherical, eliminates slop in suspension. That's cool. I agree with all of those things. Um, it goes into some other stuff for high horsepower, upgraded axles, subframe lockdown kit, diff braces and mounts. That's fair. Coilovers versus lowering springs. Coilovers best for performance, adjustable ride height, dampening, spring rates, best for handling, track use. Brands: Olin's, KW, Fortune Auto, Feel, MCA, BC Racing, quote unquote budget right after that. Okay. Lowering springs, budget friendly options, improves looks and slightly better handling, not adjustable, still soft for serious track use. Brands: RCE Yellow, Swift, IBOC Pro Kit. Honestly, this isn't bad. Like
Yeah. No, I
what
actually got the same recommendations for it says daily driver slash spirited street driving, mild upgrades, lowering springs, RCE Yellow, Swift, Spec Rs, and ECBOC. And it tells you why. Lower center of gravity to improve handling. It says it's about a 1-inch drop. And it says to upgrade struts to Belstein B6s or Conyo Yellows.
Coney Yellows, yeah.
Yep. It just says smoother dampening and stability. Sway bars, 22 millimeter plus front and rears to reduce body roll. End links, white line, or cart boys.
Yep.
It doesn't go too much detail in here, but this is the real interesting. It says track autocross time attack, full handling setup. It tells you coilovers are better. Olin's, Fortune Auto 500s, KW V3s, RCE Super Streets, MCA Reds.
For what?
For track.
Okay.
Like for coilovers. This is track autocross and time attack stuff. Stiffer sway bar, 24 millimeter plus front and rears to turn the car in better and handles weight transfer better. It says roll center adjustment kit. It doesn't go much detail into that. It just says white line. But the real interesting stuff is camber plates. It tells you to change your camber plus 1.5 to -3 camber to get more front grip to reduce understeer.
So it immediately said you're going to need camber, which all of our cars have a strut front suspension. Okay,
yep.
You're going to need it. That's interesting.
Yeah, went right into saying you need more camber to reduce the understeer. And then it goes into drag racing a bit. Doesn't go into detail. Just recommends brands.
Gangster in the chat goes, could you do the IAG Performance podcast instead of Dewey?
Yeah, yeah.
IAG Performance is a well-known company in the Subaru performance world, specializing in high-performance parts, engine building, tuning, They also have a popular podcast, which they discuss various aspects of Subaru performance, car builds, tuning, and related topics. You're asking whether I can take place of Dewey or another guest on the IAG Performance podcast. I can definitely engage in a similar discussion and offer insights, but unfortunately, I can't be a live guest on the podcast itself. However, I can simulate conversation in the same style and provide information, answer questions, or discuss topics that might come up on their podcast. If you'd like, I can help you brainstorm potential topics that would be relevant for an IAG style podcast. Look, we actually have a style of podcast now. It's called the IAG style.
Cool.
Or simulate what a conversation would look like based on the typical themes, e.g. Subaru builds, tuning, troubleshooting, etc. Let me know what you'd like to dive into. That's funny.
So why we're on top, that is hysterical, but we're on topic of that. It says it can't be a guest. That's a lie. There is plenty of voice augmented bots that you can implement into Discord that uses ChatGPT to have a full blown conversation with.
Yo, can we have a bot Can we have a GPT bot that we could like name something stupid and he's just our stupid info bot?
Yeah, we could totally do that. I can either I'll make it either use the text chat, or if we really want to, because I think doing this format again with ChatGPT in a like more live setting would be great. I'll make a bot that can actually use the voice channel.
That's what I'm saying. Like I want to
Yeah.
I want to talk to it as a name.
Yeah.
I want to give it a name like Brian or something. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'll be like, Brian, what is, how many 22Bs are out there? And it spits it. You know what I mean? So we're
Yeah.
always like, that would actually be kind of helpful because we're constantly second guessing certain numbers or things like that would be fun. And then we can just bug Brian or whatever we're gonna name it.
Right.
Um,
Right. Yeah.
we got to give it a really annoying name. I haven't figured out what it's going to be yet.
Yeah. We'll
Um,
work it out. I think that
yeah.
would be hysterical to have.
Do
Like,
not name it
just
Jeff.
my name. Yeah.
Okay. Um. So, what was I going to ask? Oh, I want to ask it about alignment specs. We're going to get a little more. We're going
Yeah.
to get a
Yeah.
little more picky with this. Okay. Uh, for my. Okay. I'm trying to decide. Should I still continue to talk like I am talking to it, or should I get? Okay. I'm just going to ask
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
what
Act as you're
would
talking.
be a good alignment setting for an STI for track use. We'll just keep it super simple. Whoa!
Oh, dude, it's spitting out some numbers.
Spitting some shit, and I
It's
ain't
spitting
mad
out
at it.
some numbers. Holy shit. It's pretty detailed.
It gave me like a little chart, man.
Oh, I didn't get it. I didn't get no chart. Maybe it will. But it's giving me numbers explaining why it's choosing those numbers, and
Yeah.
it's telling yeah.
I'm gonna read that. This is good. I'm not gonna lie. A good track alignment for an STL will prioritize corner and grip stability and tire wear balance. Okay. So I might try to ask it to get even more aggressive or somehow. All right. Either way, camber front 3 to 3 -3 to -3.5 degrees, rear -2 to -2.5 degrees. More front camber helps the turn in and grip. Totally agree. Toe 0 to slightly toe out in the front, which is exactly what I tell people to do. Rear 0 to slightly toe in the rear. I tell almost everybody go 0 toe in the rear. Toe out in the front improves turn in. Toe in the rear stabilizes. Caster max positive is -7 to -8. It just basically try to get as much positive caster as you can. More caster equals better high speed stability. That's true, but also caster works as dynamic camber. I wish it would talk more about that, but that's again, these are solid. Why these settings? More negative camber improves its corner and grip. Slight toe out in front sharpens steering response. Then it goes into adjustment based on track and driving style. High speed tracks, e.g., smooth circuits, 3.5 in front, 2.5 in the rear for max grip. Tighter technical tracks, slightly less camber. I don't agree with that. Okay, slightly less camber, 3 degrees in the front, 2 in the rear for better braking stability. I would want this backwards. For high speed tracks, I would want less camber because I'm going to need, in theory, I should be braking more. Okay. When I think high speed track, though, I think about Road America, where it's like huge straightaways, massive brake zones. Okay. Tighter technical tracks, I'm thinking more like a Gingerman or something like that, where I'm turn in and min cornering speed are a really big deal. Um More aggressive turn in, increase the front toe out slightly to 0.05 inches to a tenth, so half a tenth to a tenth, which I totally agree. More straight line stability, run 0 toe all around. That, or you can actually run a little bit of toe in the rear. Additional suspension tweaks, stiffer front sway bar, reduces understeer. I'm happy they actually say that. A lot of people think the only way to get a car to oversteer is actually rear sway bar, but your front sway bar massively helps turn in. Rear sway bar later in the corner will help the car rotate, but I got to be real, when you're especially high speed tracks, that can get real sketchy. Corner balance your car for optimal weight distribution. That is a huge one that we do not do enough. Check tire pressures after hot laps. Aim for 34 to 36 psi hot. This is shit advice. Okay.
That seems a little high.
Not only is that a little high, that really depends on tire. Okay. Now, what I will say is if you're coming off track in basically any tire and you're seeing like 45 psi, you went out way too hot. But what they don't go, I'm happy they're saying check tire pressures after hot laps. Okay. 34, I guess, would be for a lot of tires might be okay. But like Boogie, we're aiming for 32 hot on RE71 RS. Okay. But on I tended to turn better laps with like 28 to 29 hot in my RT660s. Or if you have an AO52, that 34 to 36 might be closer. And these are that might vary due to car alignment settings, all sorts of stuff.
Well, I use the same tires, and I agree that right around 32 hot was my best performance.
Yep. Street versus track considerations. These settings will wear tires faster on the street due to higher camber. Totally agree. It'll also happen due to toe. If it's a dual purpose car, dial back camber to 2.5 and keep toe arms close to 0. I agree with that too. Anything past 2.5 and you're gonna wear it pretty fast. I'm not mad at that, but I'm also not happy. Okay, so now it asks, is this for time attack, autocross, or general HPD? I'm gonna go time attack. I'm gonna say time attack.
So I did not get that prompt. I'm just gonna ask it best settings for time attack and see if I get something similar then.
I just typed in time attack. For time attack, you'll want an aggressive alignment focus on maximum corner and grip. And it's getting even better. Okay. Camber 3.5 to 4 degrees. I agree with this. Okay. For the front, rear 2.5 to 3. Again, agree with that. Toe 0 to slightly toe out. Same situation. Just basically add more camber.
So mine's even the same numbers, but 0.5 degrees less than what you're getting. Weird.
Interesting. Okay.
Very weird. But it's the same info. It's just recommending 0.5 less degrees.
Now let's ask this. How would I increase caster? Increasing caster on your STI is done by adjusting front suspension geometry. More positive caster improves high speed stability, corner and grip, and steering feel, which is perfect for time attack. So now it understands I am trying to do time attack. Adjustable front lower control arms. That's the best method. And to a certain degree, I agree with that. Adjustable caster bushings. It actually gives me the exact part number for a anti-lift kit.
Wow.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. Replaces stock control arm rear bushing with an offset bushing to push the arm forward. Adds 0.5 degree to a full degree of extra caster. Caster adjustable top hats and camber plates. Typically adds about the same amount. Recommended part ground control camber plates. I don't know about that. If I were to tell you to do that, you're probably already on coilovers. There's a few different ways you can do this. You can either rotate the camber plates you already have, or depending on what chassis you have, you may be able to get Subaru or like Fortune Auto. They make a competition camber plate, which adds a bunch of caster. Extended lower ball joints for roll center adjustment. Oh, interesting. Adds 0.5 degree of caster while correcting roll center. I guess it might do that because you're lengthening the ball joint connection to the lower control arm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess that angle would change a little bit.
It
So
would.
yeah, I have
It
to
would.
agree. That makes sense. Um, okay, interesting. So we need to ask some more pointed questions here. What are we thinking? Oh, here's what I wanted to ask.
What do
When
we have?
should I get a closed deck block? Hyper M big power. They're saying 500 wheel horsepower more. I don't agree with that, but okay. When
Yeah, I got the same response. 500 plus.
Yeah. When you don't need a closed deck block, when you're under 450, I'm gonna say when you're under 420. Um, Best closed deck options for STI, IAG, out front, and once again, Killer B, which I don't think Killer B makes engines, and I don't remember at any point Killer B ever making engines, but I could be wrong. Have we figured out if Killer B ever made engines? I'm surprised Crawford was never brought up in this. Okay. These are no, I'm gonna start popping in questions that I get a lot. Does or do closed deck engines affect cooling?
Uh, well, I misspelled, but
This is
it corrected the spelling.
this is wrong. Okay. At least this isn't okay. This is the first time that I think I'm like we're definitely on opposite sides of stuff here.
So, okay, so what did it tell you if it was worse or better for cooling? I want to see if
It goes
mine's different.
so I asked, do closed deck engines affect cooling? And
Yep.
the answer was yes. Closed deck blocks can affect cooling, but the impact depends on the design. Here's what you need to know. How closed deck blocks affect cooling. Pros: increases block rigidity, handles higher combustion temps and pressures, ideal for high boost, high RPM. Yada yada yada. Cons: less coolant flow around the cylinders. Barely. Okay. Is higher localized heat buildup. Don't really agree with that either. Needs upgraded cooling system. Also not totally true. Um, so that it goes on further how to fix these problems: bigger radiator and upgraded oil cooling, proper cooling additives, increase cooling flow, monitor temps. Okay. Best closed deck options for cooling. Some companies modify the coolant passages in their closed decks to reduce heat issues. IAG and Outfront Motorsports design their closed deck blocks with cooling in mind. IAG closed decks has coolant routing to prevent overheating. Outfront closed deck custom machining to maintain proper flow. Long story short, I think there was maybe a NASIAC thread or something. There was some hysteria about closing the deck a while, like when closed deck blocks first started
Right.
coming out, and I think it's pulling from that. Okay.
So
Closed deck blocks like drastically decreased your cooling capacity, and the reality of it is that's not true at all. I have yet to really see it change anything as far as cooling. And if you really want to see proof of that, look at your OEM head gasket. Look how much that interferes with cooling going to the head. Remember, the closed deck insert's not very large. It's only up at the top of the cylinders. So and if you look at your head, look at the way the cooling passages work in that. They're even smaller than the openings in the head gasket. There's really no cooling. Nothing's getting impeded in any way. Now there is a little bit more material there, but plenty of it is getting cooled.
so
I don't know, man. What do you
so
got?
I got something different from ChatGPT, and it contradicts itself twice. It says that it's bad, and then it goes to say it's not bad. It's kind of funny because it's literally saying how it's actually better for cooling because it handles heat distribution better. So it has more surface area for your coolant to carry the heat away. And then it says right after that it requires better cooling. It doesn't say why, but it just says that the temperatures are higher. But then after that, it goes back to saying that it's better because it holds better heat retention, or because of it dissipates heat better.
Interesting.
Super weird. Yeah, super
Yeah.
weird.
Super confused.
Yeah, it's super confused. Let's see what else. Let's see, where is lost it?
So Gangster asked me to ask a more pointed handling question to ChatGPT, and I'm gonna do this. So
Yeah.
basically, what Gangster is saying is, um, ask it for recommendations to adjust to handling behavior, like removing understeer in a specific situation or something. So what I'm gonna say is, um, if my STI is understeering mid to late corner. Uh,
Mid to late corner,
how
just
would
how to
I
fix it.
correct
Yeah. Okay.
It's unreal how fast it pulls answers for this too.
I know.
If your STI is understeering mid to late corner, it means the front tires are losing grip, causing the car to push wide. Since you're building a time attack car, you want precise turn in balance and max corner and grip. Here's how to fix it. Increase front negative camber, more grip. To a certain degree, I agree with that. Go to 3.5
Yep.
to 4 degrees front camber if possible. Helps keep the front tires planted mid corner. Okay. Inside front tires getting hot, reduce too hot, reduce slightly. Okay. Reduce rear negative camber to help more rotation. If rear camber is too high, over 2.5 degrees, it can make the car too unstable. Now, this is something I am happy to see. I didn't tell it I need an alignment setting. I just said I want to get this car to do something, and and it went to alignment first, which I'm not mad about. But the one thing it has not stated, okay, it's giving me different toe adjustments, driving technique. It's telling me to trail brake more, throttle modulation. Okay, these are decent. At no point in this though, stiffen rear sway bar, soft and front sway bar, which are all not wrong, but I'm interested to see if we can fix it with. Oh, here we go. Alignment and tire adjustments. Which what the fuck was the other thing? Increase front tire pressures slightly. I agree with that. Decrease rear tire pressures slightly. Adjust brake bias if possible. Okay. Car pushes mid corner, more front camber, front sway bar, stiffer rear bar. It's telling me a bunch of bar stuff, but what about changing shock settings?
Yeah, I get a lot of bar stuff. I also got recommended. It's literally, it's like, if this doesn't help, why don't you consider adding aero?
Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Which isn't bad, but did it tell you anything as far as shock settings?
No, let's see. Let me roll through it. It gave me a lot of camber settings, tire
Well,
pressure settings.
I'm interested because it sounds like for you it did the same thing for me. It immediately went to alignment, which this is one of those things that alignment alignment is probably the biggest contributing factor to how your car is going to handle. It's like that and tires are your two biggest contributing factors.
Yep.
But it's really easy to turn a knob on your shocks and make enough of a change to do what you need.
So
Okay.
the only recommendation I got for coilovers or anything like that is adjusting ride height, and it doesn't say what, like
Really?
by how much or
Yeah.
anything, but it says why it works. It says lowering the front ride height to or increasing the rear height can change the car's weight distributions and suspension geometry, which can help improve cornering balance. What to do? Lower the front ride height slightly to increase front grip, or to raise the rear a small amount to increase rear grip.
Interesting.
Um, yeah, that's all the information I got about like, is this like a coilover or suspension itself. Everything else is either alignment, sway bars, tire pressures. It actually also recommends driving technique, changing your driving technique.
Well, that's what it told me at the bottom also. It was
Yeah,
like, "Hey, maybe you should do some more trail braking," AKA learn to fucking drive, dude.
learn
Um,
to drive. Best mod you can do is driver mod, guys.
so, um, so I asked, how about changing shock settings? And it went into how to adjust shocks to fix mid-corner understeer. Increase front rebound, more front grip, decrease rear rebound, more rotation, slightly decrease front compression, slightly increase rear compression. The car pushes late corner on throttle. Okay, so that's all. It gives me the difference between on throttle and off throttle. So let's say on throttle, decrease front rebound, more weight transfer rearward, increase front rebound, more rotation on throttle, increase rear compression, slightly better throttle rotation. These are all pretty solid. Okay. Oh, and then they
Yeah,
give me a
I
nice little
passed
chart on what
testing,
what
getting
I want it
roughly.
to do. But then it goes down to pro tips: make small changes, keep a log, test on a consistent section of track. So find a corner that you're having this problem and keep repeatedly trying to hit it on there and like really note it. It's solid advice. Like everything that it said there makes sense. I want to ask. Let's see if it can fix a problem on Boogie. Um,
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah. We gonna ask about the
with
power steering
the
issue?
rear hopping on.
Oh, you're talking about that rear hopping
Yep, adding
you're experiencing? Yeah.
large amounts of throttle. So I'm having issues with the rear hopping on corner exit when adding large amounts of throttle. Let's see what we get. Poor weight transfer, excessive rear rebound dampening. Here's how to dial it out: decrease rear rebound, slightly decrease rear compression, increase front rebound, check rear ride height, increase rear toe in slightly. Interesting. Reduce rear camber if excessive. Too much rear camber, 2.5 or more, reduces contact patch under throttle. Try 2 or 2.5 for better rear grip. Drivetrain bushing fixes, tire power delivery adjustments, lower tire pressures, smooth throttle application. It's turbo car. It's fine. Shut up. I need to hit this thing.
So that's actually interesting. It's recommending tow, like you thought. I wonder if it's like you're throwing the car out and it's like skipping, like your tire is grabbing traction for a split second and it loses it and causes the car to bounce.
We had some theories on that. And we're we still need to do some testing. Okay, just flat out, we need to do some testing. Um, but we're we're working we're working on some stuff. We're actually wondering if maybe we have some actual chassis problems that we need to address. That car's been beat. Okay, so
Right.
yeah, we might be welding some chassis reinforcements in some certain spots too.
Yeah, well, that'd be crazy if the car's flexing that much too. I mean, I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't be surprised necessarily, but that's still crazy that you'd have that much G's. They were like, you know what? We need to reinforce this.
I mean, dude, the as fast as we're going these days, it's nuts.
It's fair. Um, so it also recommended me more throttle control, but obviously that's not what you're trying to do. You're trying to get out of that hole as fast as possible.
Yeah, yeah,
So that's just not an option.
yeah, yeah. Not like get on throttle less. I don't even understand what you're saying.
Right. Like, what are you talking? This ain't it. No,
What?
wrong
I'm not
answer.
cute. All right, we need a couple of more fairly pointed questions. I mean, we're building a time attack car. We should be talking about Arrow, right?
Yeah, mine did recommend considering Arrow if
Okay.
adjusting suspension
So,
and stuff didn't work.
um, have we figured out? I wonder how if let's. I wonder if we can add like a class to this. Okay, so where would Okay, what would you recommend for street for grid life street modified legal aerodynamics? Let's see what we get out of this. It'd also help if I could spell.
Oh yeah, dude, I misspelled. So bad on that time. Yeah. All right.
So, what would you recommend for grid life street modified legal aerodynamics? For grid life street modified legal aerodynamics, you want a maximum downforce while staying within the rules. Here's how to optimize your aero. Front arrow, maximize downforce and balance. Splitter, max. Oh, it even goes into exactly sizing. Okay, this is cool.
So mine did not. That's weird.
Yeah,
Well,
it
it's
goes
weird that we get
street
different answers.
modified arrow guide. Front arrow, maximize downforce and balance. Splitter, max five inches beyond bumper, no flat bottoms. Full 5-inch splitter extensions. Full 5-inch splitter extension for max front downforce. I bet you they don't I don't know. Use aluminum, carbon, or composite with proper chassis mounting, turnbuckle, and chassis mounts to prevent flex. Add end plates for improved efficiency, canards and dive planes. Legal as long as they don't exceed body width. Helps direct air around the front tires and increase front grip. Pair with a splitter for best effect. Vent the hood to reduce lift and temps. That's very real. Louvered hood vents. Best placement right behind the radiator to extract hot air. Varus APR and custom vents work well. Surprised they didn't say anything about Pro Awesome. Rear arrow, GT wing, max height is the roofline, no chassis mounts. I don't know why they think you can't chassis mount the wing. You absolutely can.
And
That's
you
weird.
should.
You absolutely should for how stupid
You should. You should if you can. Yeah.
Yes. Best option 71 inch APR GTC 300 or Voltex Type S. I don't agree with either of those. Mount as far back as possible for best leverage. Set to 5 to 10 degrees AOA to balance downforce. So 5 to 10 degrees of angle of attack, which is I don't think they even know what the fuck they're talking about as far as that goes. It's going to be different for whatever wing. Ducktail spoiler alternative. If a GT wing is too much, a ducktail spoiler will add rear stability, works well if placed with an aggressive splitter diffuser. Guys, just go get that old ducktail spoiler NASCAR style thing.
Right.
That would do the job. Rear diffuser cannot extend past bumper. No, it just can't go any more than 5 inches past. Maximum rake angle, 10 to 15 degrees for best efficiency. That's true. Full width diffuser with a proper vanes to clean up airflow. Can combine with flat rear bumper panels to improve underbody flow. Side arrow, side skirts and extensions help direct air away from the underbody. Legal as long as they don't extend beyond body width. Yes. Flat paneling under the car before the rear diff also helps. Rear tire spats, air curtains, small vertical fins in front of the rear wheels to reduce drag. Front and rear wheels to reduce drag, I guess, kinda. Best overall setup, street modified legal. Splitter, 5 inches, GT wing, hood vents, rear diffuser, side skirts. Okay.
So that is crazy.
Wrong.
I didn't
get. What did you get?
Nothing that detail. It tells me like I can add, wings, splitters, all that, but it could not give me any measurement. Like the splitter can be no more than 5 inches away from the body, or what the wing is 72 inches, right? It didn't give me any of that.
I think 72 inches is actually like that's mirror to mirror. Okay.
Yeah.
So legal mirror to mirror.
Mirrors didn't mention any of that. It just gave me a list of things I could do to the car to give it downforce. That's all it did.
Interesting.
Even though I mentioned grid life, I even mentioned it.
You know what I mean? maybe some of these are a little outdated, or I don't know, but I think it went looking for street modified rules.
Here, let me ask. Let me ask if it can read the rule book real quick and tell me what to do. Um,
Yeah.
and all right, and it immediately came out wrong. Front splitter can stay within width limits and avoid access for extension 6 to 12 inches. What are you doing? It's like all
Why
of a sudden
is
my
so
bot's
different?
dumb.
Mine's actually pretty accurate. Yours is crazy.
I think maybe I ran out of like premium like usage or some shit for.
Yeah, you got the dumb cores.
I got the dumb ones now because it does like if you're not paying for ChatGPT, like if you only get so many like deep search uses unless you pay for it. So I could have just ran out.
What Subaru would you build to win Grid Life Street Modified in 2025? Now, the reason I want it, I'm trying to coax it into going to read the 2025 rule book.
So fun fact, I don't know. I think they go as far back as October of 24.
Well, let's see what it does.
Yeah, I think that's the
I start with a
database it's
V8
working for.
chassis. Okay.
We did tell it where to reference Seraphim Wolf, and it did not read the rule book or give me anything on it. It actually got the information wrong.
It found it correct for me though.
It did, yeah. For Dewey, it had all the information correct. For me,
Yeah,
on my end, it was not.
Do you like the right size splitter and everything? Oh wow, this actually isn't awful.
Did not speculate the year.
This isn't bad. I don't agree with it, but it's not a bad build. Okay, so I
Or, yeah,
go.
what to give you?
If I were building a Subaru to win Grid Life Street Modified in 2025, I'd start with a VA chassis, 2015 to 21, for the best balance of power potential, chassis stiffness, modern suspension geometry. Here's how I would build it. Okay. Chassis choice, VA chassis Y, stronger than the older GD better suspension geometry for track use. Okay. Wider stock fenders allowing better wheel tire fitment. Honestly, the VA does not allow for any more wheel tire fitment than a GD chassis does. Not only that, you can only run a 255 anyway. So what the fuck do you need anything wider
I
for?
know.
All right. Still has hydraulic steering, unlike the VB STI, which doesn't exist.
The VB STI, it said VB.
Still has hydraulic steering, unlike the VB STI, which doesn't exist. Alternative, if I wanted the lightest possible STI, I'd rather consider a 2005-2007 GD STI, but reinforce the chassis. Okay, fair. Powertrain, max reliable power. It's getting the power output correct. It says 620 to 680 wheel horsepower, which is about what you would need to make a dent in street modified.
Aren't you running 580 though?
What's that?
So aren't you running 580 though?
I am. Closed deck 2.5 liter EJ 257 IAG Stage 4 Plus or out front or RCM block. So now we've even got RCM in this. Okay. Sleeved and pin block for high boost reliability. Okay, never sleeve your blocks. That's interesting there. Wrong about pinning it, but sleeving it, that's the reason you close the deck. Is so so we got some crossing. Balanced rotating assembly for 8,000 RPM plus. I don't recommend taking a 257 past 8,000 RPM, but okay. Upgraded oiling system. Dry sump is ideal. IG Street X or RCM wet sump alternative. Did we ever call our shit something different? I don't know.
Not sure.
Yeah, that's I don't know what a IAG Street X is. G35 1050 or Zona rotor turbo. For responsive power, 650 wheel horsepower capable on E85, fast pull for corner exits. Tuned twin scroll setup for better transient response. Wrong. Okay. So one, neither of those turbos are twin scroll as far as I know. Maybe you can get a twin scroll housing for a G35 1050, but I don't think so.
You can.
Can you?
Yeah, I'm
All
pretty
right.
sure
Well,
you can.
you're not going to get better transient response from a twin scroll turbo. Okay, you're going to get better boost threshold. But transient, you already have the exhaust gases moving. You know, I don't quite agree with that. Motec M1 ECU, it's not bad. Plus direct injector support. What? Drive-by-wire tuning for better throttle modulation, active torque vectoring, control with DCD tuning, which is not torque vectoring. Flex fuel plus not control for safety. I agree with some of this stuff, even though it's really vague. But what do we need direct injector support for? It's an EJ.
Right.
Sequential transmission, optional but faster. Also, that became legal this year. Interesting. PPG or Samsona sequential for no lift shifts and reliability of staying H pattern. PPG straight cuts are a built RA 6-speed. Okay.
Not bad.
Arrow.
So I also looked it up. You can get a twin scroll G35.
Can you? They make a twin scroll housing for that, huh?
They
I'd be
do,
interested
yep.
to see how that did. I wonder what size is it? Does it say?
Not sure.
All right. This is why we don't have. See, this is why we need.
I know,
we need
Brian. Need Brian.
All right. Full 5-inch front splitter. So it's going into that. Chassis mounted aluminum or carbon fiber for strength. Tunnel the sides for additional downforce. I don't think it quite understands what it's saying by tunneling, but it knows putting splitter tunnels in are a good idea. GT wing, max roof height, still saying GTC 300 or Voltex Type S, rear mounted for best leverage. Okay. Aggressive rear diffuser, full legal length, angled 10 to 15 degrees, louvered hood, suspension and chassis, dial and rotation, 3-way adjustable coilovers. Boom! You're already illegal. You're only allowed 2 ways. But it came back with some good spring rates. 14, 16.
Yeah.
Like, that's correct for a VA for what you were trying to do. 14K front, 16K rear for a time attack car. That makes sense. That ain't bad. Front caster, 7.5 degrees for better turn in. Wide track setup, legal flares and wider arms. Extend the front lower control arms for better camber gains. Okay, SPL rear arms to dial in toe and camber. I agree with that. DCD plus R180 rear diff, 1.5-way front and 2-way rear. There you go. Set up for power on rotation while keeping stability. I like it. And then it immediately tells you to break the rules again. 315 30 18 Yokohama AO52s on an 18x11 wheel. Max grip under street mod rules. That's not legal. AO52s work great in time attack conditions. I agree with that. Then brakes, AP Radical 9668 or similar. Very, very good brake kit. Okay. And that is an extraordinarily good option. 355 millimeter 2-piece rotors. And then it even gives you brake pad recommendations, endless ME20s or Frodo DS111 pads, which honestly are not bad pad choices. There are other options I would pick, but if you were to go talk to APSX or something, they're probably going to recommend the Frodos.
I'm actually shocked at how much
will win in 2025. Well, it's cheating.
Yeah.
So 650 wheel horsepower with response, max legal aero downforce, 315s, wide track, proper diff tuning, dry sump, closed deck block, motorsports ECU. I mean, they're not wrong. It would win if it was legal. I don't know. I don't think it would win. I think the VA's just too fat for it. But I'm not mad about the build other than the fact that it's wrong. So now I'm going to argue with it. Are you not limited to 255 millimeter width tires in street modified with an all-wheel drive car?
So while we're waiting on the answer for that, I looked up I found the the size for that twin scroll? 106.
So a 106, so a 1.06 twin
Yep.
scroll.
Yep.
I'd be
1.0.
interested to see how that did. I don't think it'd be good for larger power. It definitely wouldn't work well with a twin scroll.
That's the
Like,
only size I am finding is
yeah,
1.06. So
interesting. I'd be that'd be an. I think that would be kind of a sick setup for like an IAG 950. I would be interested to see how that worked. Um, I don't know. We'll see. All right. So then I just went, are you not limited to 255 millimeter width tires on a street modified with an all wheel drive car? And then it goes, apologies for the earlier oversight. In Grid Life Street Modified, Street Mod class, all wheel drive vehicles are limited to a maximum tire width of 255. This restriction in place maintains a competitive balance amongst different drivetrain configurations. This means all wheel drive cars such as Subaru STI must adhere to the 255 tire width limit. For most accurate, up-to-date information, it's essential to consult the latest Grid Life rulebook or contact Grid Life officials directly. Now, what I'm going to ask is, would you modify your build with this with this information in
with
mind?
yeah. Yeah, a lot of times with ChatGPT though, like when you like say or you question it like that, it usually favors like I think someone else said it in the chat that it'll correct itself no matter what. Um that is the case most of the time. But there's times where it's still smart enough to like hold true to its answer if it can actually find a source of saying that it's right rather than you correcting it.
It didn't change the chassis. It actually lowered the power. They
Hmm.
said 550 to 600. Okay. Smaller, faster spooling turbo. They think a G35 900 is the answer now. Longer gearing with optimized ratios. More emphasis on downforce. Now I'm gonna ask, would you still use a V8 chassis? With a V8
Interesting.
chassis, it's still a strong option. The case can be made for a lighter alternative. The goal, okay, V8 chassis, pros and cons. Stronger OEM chassis, better rigidity, better front suspension geometry than older Subarus. Not totally true. Wider stock width, hydraulic steering. The older ones have it too. Heavier than a GD. What? Yeah. Okay. Yes. GD chassis. Okay. So what it's trying to do is say, hey, you should make your own choice. Lighter weight, simpler chassis, easier to modify suspension geometry. Still has hydraulic steering. Proven time attack platform. Used in unlimited time attack classes like Can Jam Racing. So it even brings up an example of who you can check out.
Yeah.
I'm surprised
Cool.
at no point it hasn't said anything about Boogie. Like you should look at
Since
this
we've
as an
talked
example.
about it.
Yeah,
Actually, I don't think we have talked about it
we haven't.
in this session.
I'm gonna ask it what it thinks just for shits. It's 300 pounds. Okay, final decision. What would I build? The goal is absolute peak performance under 255 tire limit. I would choose the GD chassis. Okay, so it changes its build. It's 300 pounds lighter, less weight, better acceleration, braking, easier to reach power to weight limits within class rules. Well, I mean, we don't have a power to weight limit, but
Yeah.
however, if I already owned a V8 chassis and wanted to be competitive without a full chassis swap, it's still a great platform. Like they're not wrong, you know. It just needed to be reminded it was dumb.
Yeah, like I said, someone also mentioned that if you kind of like correct it, not flat out correcting it, but like coming up with a question that
Yeah,
suggests a different answer, it usually goes back and like backpedals like
yeah. It
90%
goes,
of the time.
okay, what did I miss? And maybe digs a
Yeah.
little deeper into certain areas. That's fair.
Um yeah. Um I'm surprised it didn't bring up because it's saying a VA is a great platform. surprised it didn't bring up anything on that. I don't know if it's all that well known on the internet that the VA has way worse cooling issues than the other platforms.
That is not because honestly, there wasn't a lot of information out there when NASCAR
Right.
was falling apart. I don't think
Sure.
people realize how big the cooling issues are, and I don't think Chat
It
GPT
it
was picking up
it
on
is it is bad. Cooling on VAs are really bad. Like just
it's
running
bad.
casually, I was getting upwards of 230 last year.
It's bad. And that has to do with the package and the engine and the weight and everything. It's basically the same as a GR, but the shape of the front end is different. And
Right. Yeah.
it has issues. I really think it's got that giant front bumper beam hurts it so bad.
Oh yeah, it like covers I would say a good 60% of it.
Yeah, it's a ton, and I think that's the big problem it's having. So I'm asking right now, who should I ask about building a Subaru in street modified?
Oh yeah. And if it doesn't get specific, maybe you should ask in Grid Life Street Modified. That way it knows for sure like what series to look at. If it doesn't bring up anything.
Uh, It 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 then went in and said for expert advice on building a Subaru for Grid Life Street Modified, I'd recommend reaching out to top Subaru focused race shops, tuners, and experienced drivers. So okay, this will be interesting. We end up on top. Why they build closed deck EJ, yada yada yada. Call out front, talk to them. Nameless Performance in Washington. Exhaust and Aero Specialist. Nameless do an aero. Okay. Pro Awesome in Indiana. I'm actually happy they got brought up. Pro Awesome is always, if you guys are looking for like serious race prep and need to talk to somebody about like, hey, what should I do to build a race car? Professional Awesome is, those are great people to ask. Who to ask? Dan O'Donnell. Oh, they even give a name. Who to ask? Rick Huseman. I don't know Rick Huseman if he's still been here. Supposedly he was the lead tech and on their motorsports team. So Rick, if he no longer works here, because that isn't the same Rick that we all know and love. I don't know. That's interesting. Street modified drivers and teams to follow. Cody Miles, who has, I don't remember the last time Cody has ran. Why? Proven street mod, all-wheel drive competitor. He's never ran Grid Life Street Modified. He ran limited, but he did run street in GTA. Okay. Track proven aero and suspension setups. Borsma Racing, Grid Life Street Mod competitor, time attack champ. Absolutely has never ran a Subaru in Grid Life Street Mod. Why? Fastest time attack front wheel drive driver, but highly knowledgeable on street mod rule applications. I mean, I will say Chris is a very good person to ask. If you were to have a conversation about how to deal with grid life stuff, but he is track mod. He is a Honda guy. RS Motors, Minnesota, time attack tuning experts. Not gonna lie, you're never gonna get bad advice from RS Motors. Okay, so why tune record setting street mod and limited all-wheel drive time attack cars? That's true. Dirty. Did me dirty. A lot of this is old info though. Cody has not ran in a long time. I don't think the cars ran after he popped it at the Grid Life Colorado event. Yeah, I mean, this is some old info. And then going back to, I don't know who this Rick is. So
Rick
Huseman,
Huseman,
like 3-4 years, like 3 years. So like this guy probably was around here at one time.
how does it spell Huseman?
Huseman.
Is an American race car driver from Riverside, California. He raced an off-road off-road something. His career peaked the highest level in a four-wheel drive Pro 4 short course truck racing.
I'm trying to be that guy, but I don't know who this dude is, and I don't think he's our guy. Okay.
Not our guy.
I will say down at Pro Awesome, they've got Dan O'Donnell in here. Dan knows some shit. That's interesting. Okay. I mean, I don't agree with that, but you can't. Where to ask questions and learn from Grid Life, competitor groups, Facebook and Discord. Join the Street Mod specific divisions or discussions. They're very correct. Time Attack forums, Track HQ, Nasiak Motorsports section, etc. And then Grid Life officials and tech inspectors get direct rule clarification. This is interesting. I'm still questioning some of this. Okay. At a certain point, we have to kind of start making a conclusion. Okay, here's what I want to ask. We're gonna blow this thing out in the water. If I wanted to make 1,000 wheel horsepower with a Subaru, what? How would you do it? I want to see what it comes up with a parts list.
That'd be cool.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of dumb shit. This ain't good. Oh, it's even saying twin turbo options. Oh, this is bad. Yep, we've wandered into dumb. Okay.
So you were talking about how, because I typed in the same thing. Yeah, you're shocked that Cosworth hasn't brought up. It finally brought it up for me.
Yeah, I'm surprised Cosworth and
Honestly.
Crawford have not been brought up. 1,000 wheel
Oh, that's right.
horsepower is a significant undertaking, especially since Subarus, particularly WRXs and STI models, are typically designed to make less power from the factory. But with the right combination of parts, tuning, careful engineering, it's possible to achieve that kind of power. Here's a general breakdown. Engine build, handle 1,000 wheel horsepower, need to strengthen the engine. Aftermarket forged internals, start with strong aftermarket forged internals. Brands like Tomei, CP pistons and Manley, good stuff. Okay, handle increased power. Stroker kit, no. Larger displacement engine can handle making more power, improving reliability. A stroker kit, for example, a 2.0. You know what? I want to see if it can tell me what the rod ratio is between a 2.5 liter and a 2.3 liter. We're gonna play with that a little bit. CNC ported heads flow enough to make 1,000 wheel horsepower. Yeah, valves and springs. This is all really basic shit. Okay, and it's going into some stuff that make sure you use thicker, stronger head gaskets. Subaru stock head gaskets are known for handling big power. Cometic or Cosworth. Okay, a lot of this is outdated, but it's not, I guess, awful. Turbocharging setup at 1,000 wheel horsepower, you need a large turbo or twin turbo setup. Single turbo option. High-end big frame turbo like a Garrett GTX Precision or HKS GT series can be used for 1,000 wheel horsepower, but you'll need to ensure the turbo is sized properly to make that much power. Twin turbo options. Some people go with a twin turbo setup. Has anybody ever seen a twin turbo EJ that made any
Only
real
one.
power? That actually made power. Like I'm talking like 800 plus. Fuel system, fuel injectors, fuel pump, fuel management. This is just barfing dumb shit.
I
But
only can think of
realistically,
one.
this is the same sort of shit that people are going to get. I think it thinks we're a bro at this time. Ooh, let's ask a real bro question.
So
What oil should I run in my STI?
So while you're waiting on a response to that, I got completely different response to the same thing. I'm like, build me 1,000 wheel horsepower WRX STI. It immediately goes. What was that?
That's the question you said.
Yeah,
You
build me a 1,000 wheel horsepower at WRX STI.
Okay.
And it immediately gave me the IEG 1150 block. And it goes more in detail to go with either CP, Manley, or JE pistons. Manley H rods, H beams or I beams. Crankshaft, Forged Eagle or Crower crankshaft. Which is I guess.
Crower's good stuff.
Yeah. It immediately recommends a G35 1050. That a rotated kit is way better than a stock location, and that you should go to E85. It recommends ID 2000cc injectors. A dual Walboro 450 LP yeah, wall
You're
bore
gonna need
450.
more fuel pump.
Yeah, I need more fuel pump than that. Aeromotive or radium engineering fuel pressure regulator.
Okay.
TPG dog box or straight cut gears.
Okay.
Straight cuts are what more drag racing style stuff.
Yeah.
X-Steady stage 4 clutch, or an ACT heavy duty. It doesn't say which heavy duty.
Yeah.
Um,
Just a heavy duty one.
yeah, just a heavy duty one. Recommends ETS front mount intercooler, and a coil radiator. Standalones is Motec Link G4 Plus or Haltech 2500 Elite.
There we go.
Yeah. Recommends just catted or catless turbo back exhausts.
I think we need to make. I mean, let's be real. It's going to give you a bunch of basic bullshit from there on out. We need to make kind of a judgment here. Okay. And we started pretty wide. We narrowed it down a little more. And again, we only did one type of build here. Here's what I am going to tell you. If you are looking for basic information, especially if it's more like a knowledge base kind of thing, how many were certain things made, what are basic ways to do certain stuff, and or if I wanted to make an alignment change, how is that going to affect me, things of those nature. Some of the information that we were given was pretty good, universal, evergreen information that isn't really going to change. It actually outputs some decent stuff. But what I can tell you is a lot of this information is really outdated. And you can tell that it's pulling a ton of this information mostly from forums that have been dead for over a decade. And a lot's changed. A lot's
A lot.
changed. Now, it's going to give you something to think about, but I wouldn't take this stuff directly to heart. It for my like oil thing, I'm happy I was waiting for it to say Rotella, and it didn't. It was basically saying 530s for 530 synthetic for a bone stock car, 540 Motul Royal Purple Amsoil, just a good synthetic oil for more of a performance oriented modified car. And it went into some other stuff basically. But it also said Mishimoto makes a high quality oil filter. So let's not go with that either. But it's not bad base info. And honestly, it's better base info than you get from asking a random Subaru group. Okay. That if you just go into, Subaru WRX or STI owners group and ask a really just bland ass wide open question, you may get better responses here with a little bit better vetted information. Okay.
I think I can agree with that. And not only that, it saves way more time and research. Imagine trying to crawl through all those dead forms yourself.
Well, then you can also immediately ask a follow-up question. This only takes a few seconds to give you a reasonable question. Okay. But like, let's look at the case of, hey, build me a time attack car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So build me you know what we never did? We should have asked how much that cost.
You know what? You don't even have to ask that because that build list gave me a list.
Oh, no
Like a
shit.
price list. It sure did.
Did
So
it give you a total?
it gave me a total. So it gave me engine block plus internals anywhere from 8 to 12,000, which depending on that's a pretty reasonable budget. Turbo setup 4 to 6,000. Transmission 4 to 6. Cooling 1,500 to 3. Supporting mods, exhaust tuning and ECU 3 to 6,000. Suspension 3 to 5. Aero $1 to $2,500. You can do aero pretty cheap. I can't agree with that.
What I am gonna say is I would add 20% to everything it's saying. And dude, I'm telling
Sure.
you, what you're saying is just proving my point. Okay. The reason I wanted to say price, because I was about to ask it, is I wanted to see what it spit out, because that sounds like 2015, maybe 2012 era pricing for a lot of this stuff.
For some of it, yeah, I agree. But it said expect your build to be up to $40,000.
I gotta be real, like, you're not gonna win Street Mod on 40 grand.
Yeah, I believe it. Yeah,
And you're just not. Like, you're gonna have 20 grand in your engine alone.
yeah, exactly.
Just I'm being real. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's about what I got in mind. Yeah,
What
I
we talk about
understand.
labor to build this. But that's what it is. You know what I mean? Um, so, just understand some of this information is dated, but if it's evergreen information, meaning like an alignment spec, like basic alignment settings, what works works. It worked in 2005, it works in 2025. Okay, it works. That really hasn't changed. But like maybe the type of head gasket you use for 550 wheel horsepower or more has. Firelocks didn't exist then.
Right. Yeah.
Things of that nature. Some of the brands have changed, which is cool. I think they did a pretty good job for the most part, but some of the brands have changed. Um, but I think a lot of the base information isn't terrible. It really isn't. It's impressive. So we need to make a conclusion. Is Chat GPT going to replace me anytime soon? The answer is no.
I
But
was gonna say yeah.
it is scary good. And it isn't going to take too long. These answers are not bad. Okay. You can get I think I'm walking away from this with this tool being so much better than I thought it would be. Just being completely honest. Um, and
Yeah,
so
no.
I think I want to. So let's see what Turbo. Okay, I want to see what Turbo Rex. I'm just gonna ask that question. Okay.
Yeah,
Uh,
just gonna ask ChatGPT how much.
yeah, we're
Uh,
just gonna ask it straight up, just because it'll be fun. How much? Um, would it cost to build a Subaru to win Grid Life Street Modified in 2025?
yeah, so if we're
Platform
asking how much
selection,
it's gonna
base car.
cost
Okay.
to.
Yep. Performance and tuning. It's breaking this down pretty good. Full race. Okay. 5 to 10 grand. 17 suspension. 38 to 7. Okay. Brakes. It got that pretty dead on. Aero. We'll see how far off it is. Anywhere between 6 and 11. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
Total wheels and tires, 3 to 5. Safety equipment, 35 to 7.
I think Arrow you
Miscellaneous
can get
labor.
pretty cheap because like a splitter you can just make out of, you know,
You
plywood.
can, but again, there's more to Arrow than
True.
just that splitter. There's a lot to
Yeah.
this. And some of this can be adjusted here and there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, Low end it says 60 to 80. I think that's very fair. That includes the cost of the car. High end 100 to 130. I I'm not mad at this. Like, I
Not
think
bad.
that's fair. Again, it's a good tool. Okay. Do I think it's going to replace me? No. Um,
It's a great tool to start with to get
it's a
general
great tool to
information.
just give you some general information. Okay. And honestly, I think more people should use it. But I don't think it's going to replace me.
No
Um,
Skynet rising to overtake Subaru.
yes. I wish Chat GTP would take over Subaru of America, or just Subaru in general, and start, give us what us enthusiasts want.
Right.
Um no, for real though, this isn't, it isn't awful. Okay. So, yeah, I think on that note, I think my job is safe for at least 1 year. I'm not going to get doged.
Not yet, but
Yeah.
I think this is a good stopping point. I think we need to do another episode of this where we actually talk
Yep.
to Chat GPT. I think that'd
No,
be dope.
I think where we're going from here is executive producer Jordan is going to make a Chat GPT bot that we're able to talk to.
Yeah, I'll definitely get started on that. That would be awesome. That'd
I
be fun.
think it would be entertaining. Okay, especially if we gave it like a British accent or something.
There's tons of voice models already out on the internet that
I don't.
like
Maybe we'll.
automatically does
We
that.
should let the chat vote on what voice we want to have. We'll preview a bunch of them and then
I'll
we'll let the chat.
I'll make a poll that like lasts like a week or so long that people can just dip into the Discord, check it out real quick, and then vote.
Yeah, we'll come up with something. Yeah, it's Morgan
Yeah.
Freeman. That'd be amazing. A Scottish accent, and none of us can understand it.
It's just some drunk Scottish dude.
He's just angry. Okay, yeah, we're gonna have some fun with this. All right, man. I mean, this was fun. I had a good time doing
It was
this.
good. Yeah, this was an awesome episode. I liked it.
Yep. So yeah, if you guys want to see any more stuff like this, or you got any suggestions, or you guys ask chat GPT anything crazy and copy and paste it and throw it in the comments of the and I want to see some of the crazy stuff that maybe it comes up with, good or bad, in the comments. Let's see some stuff. Okay. Post some comments on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, and yeah, give us some interaction on that. I gotta be real, guys. We need some reviews. Okay, give us some damn reviews on these episodes on the whatever platform you're using. Reviews help us a lot. So let's see it. Other than that, it's been real. It's been fun. It's been real fun. We will catch you guys next time. Later.